Yo, what up guys, Mysterious here, and this week we're back with a new video in the How to Beat series, and it's gonna be Akali mid this time. I got a lot of requests from people on Akali, so I played a few Akali games. I also played against a lot of Akalis, and I think I figured out a way to beat her, and we're gonna go straight into it. So her strengths are she's very sustainable in lane, and she's also very safe in lane. This is a very interesting combo. She also has immense skill threat post level 6. She skills well, is extremely mobile with her E, her R, but also her W, and she has massive damage. Also makes for very strong skirmishing. Something that we gotta be aware of, and this is something we're also gonna use in the way how to beat her. So she also has a lot of weaknesses. She's quite weak in the early lane. She has decently long cooldowns. She's very reliant on hitting E because it's such a big chunk of damage and it's a big part of her mobility. She's very weak without ult. She has extremely low wave control since only her Q basically gives her control on the wave. She can be revealed in her shroud with certain abilities. And she has extremely high energy cost, especially early. So what does Akali actually want to do? Akali wants to scale up and minimize lane. She wants to just get the creeps, isolate the lane, not have too much action until level 6. She also wants to get all the CS possible because she wants to scale up and therefore hold the wave onto her side so she can actually get the minions without being exposed. If she's looking for trades, she will look for them with her E and with her W. And after that, post level 6, she will try to kill you because she has so much damage, and once she starts rolling, it's going to be a pain to really deal with her. Also, skirmishes post 6 is what she will be looking to attend. Because her insane amount of damage, she will be very useful and very strong in these skirmishes. We got to be very aware of this. And this actually ties into how do we beat Akali. First of all, cooldown tracking. Extremely long cooldown on W, E, and R. R, of course, since it's her ult. But especially the W and the E one is something that we got to be very aware about. We really want to start looking for trades when we know she doesn't have the W or the E up, because that's when she's at her weakest. She only has one ability available. An interesting thing to note is her W only goes on cooldown after the shroud is gone. So if she presses W, it still stays off cooldown until the mist is gone, and then the 20 seconds start ticking. So this is something we got to keep in mind and really start counting in the games, because this is a window that we can bully her and can beat her. Also, she is, because of her low amount of wave control and wave clear, she's very bad against holding and slow building waves. We can combine this nicely by with avoid getting hit with her E, since it's such a big amount of her damage. By standing in the minions. I'll give a nice example at the end of the video from Chovy playing Azir into Akali, and really showing how this concept gets into play into a real game. Also, we do not want to take fair skirmishes around mid post level 6. As I said already, Akali really thrives when she's getting these kills early, when she starts getting rolling. We actually are in a very good spot against Akali if we're even or ahead. If we're behind, she beats us big time. If we're even or ahead, we got a lot of tools in the team comp to deal with her. Her 5v5 is very tricky to execute. It's not easy. And our goal, especially since the strengths of Akali being a good sustainable lane and she's very safe, is not to really kill her, but it's to be even or slightly ahead. And we can do this by forcing her onto bad resets. This is also something that we're going to talk about in the example with Chovy. So, a few champions that work well into Akali and champs that you do not want to pick, and why. First of all, LeBlanc, very good because she is very good at having pressure and therefore slow building waves, but also holding waves on her side. And her E, of course, reveals Akali in her shroud, and her E is basically a death sentence if she lands it onto Akali. Secondly, Sylas. Sylas is good into Akali because he basically outstats her, hits the spikes sooner, also scales just as well, can steal the ultimate and be an extreme menace in those skirmishes that Akali actually likes to attend. So Sylas does Akali things, but then maybe better. And this is why it's quite a good pick into Akali. Also, Veigar. Veigar Cage, of course. Extremely annoying for Akali, especially in W and with all her mobility. But also, Akali cannot really bully Veigar, since Veigar's also wants to skill, and he skills better than Akali, especially in team fights. So also a very good pick into Akali. Champs we do not want to pick, for example, Yone, Echo. Very linear dashes do these champs have, and what does that mean for Akali? Akali can just freely land an E onto them and dodge, in Yone's case, dodge out on his dash. Once Akali lands the E, she does so much damage with it that these champs cannot really compete in the amount of trading that she does onto them. So Akali is really good into these champs. Also, a good example is Azir. Azir really wants to bully and win lane. And Akali can sustain very well in lane with her D shield second wind. So that makes it pretty hard for Azir to bully her, and eventually Akali will get level 6, have a lot of mobility, and that's kind of what Azir struggles against. His wall doesn't really work, his E doesn't really work because Akali can follow if she lands an E, so Azir kind of struggles into Akali as well. What we're going to do right now is we're going to jump into an example of Chovy playing Azir into Akali, and we're going to really look how he beats her consistently and how we can do that in our own games as well. Alright, so what we see here is Chovy's Azir versus Akali. What do we see is Chovy opts in for Conqueror setup instead of Airy or Comet setup that's really centered around lane. He knows he cannot really poke out the Akali, but rather has to skill up with this Conqueror and beat her in a different way. So that's actually what we're going to see him do. He's not going to try to kill her. He's going to try to play the waves, as we said, which is based around Akali's weaknesses. So, a lot of stuff happening early game, a lot of shenanigans. Akali gets a kill. Azir loses his flash. Pretty rough in that sense, but he gets a 3 melee minion lead advantage, which XP, which he can really use to get a nice early lead in the lane and start bullying Akali with it and really play the waves around his own control. So, what we see him do is we see him starting to slow build a wave while he's contesting Akali's ability to CS. So every single minion that Akali tries to CS here, he's trading onto her. And that's very important because then we can see Akali getting lower and lower and lower, and even though she has good sustain, she will eventually drop low. So he's trying to stack 3 waves, but Akali thins it out right here pretty nicely. So it's going to be a 4-wave stack. It's not the end of the world. It's completely fine because his goal is to get her low and then bounce the wave back onto our side. So he pushes this wave, and Akali is now forced to CS under third. And he knows this, and he knows he's quite safe since he's Azir with E, and he's trying to harass Akali right now for every single minion that she's going to contest. And what we can see is Akali gets very low here because of the nice wave that we stacked. Contesting every single CS, beautiful. And what he does beautifully here right now is that he doesn't touch these 3 minions at the back, because he knows the next wave is coming in and Akali will have a slight minion lead then, and it's a slight minion lead, which is exactly what we want, because then the wave's gonna come into us, and this is a nice amount of minions that we can use to hold the wave on our side. Another nice, beautiful queued auto attack onto Akali, and the wave is gorgeous right here. We thin it out slightly because we know it's still going to slow build into us. Akali knows she wants to get this wave out ASAP, and she's really trying to. But Chovy is perfectly spacing her here and attacking her in the meantime, so she cannot really get the wave out. And if Pantheon didn't come here, he would have actually killed the Akali, because the Akali was so desperate getting the wave out that she would have failed, seen the amount of HP that she had. So it's slightly unfortunate, but the theory behind it is perfect. So let's actually continue. Chovy gets back. He's probably quite similar in XP right now. He didn't lose too much, maybe slightly ahead even. So right now his plan again is to do the same on repeat, because this really neutralizes Akali. So he's slow building the wave, trying to harass Akali every time he sees fit. We can see a wave slowly starting to build up here. He reaches level 6, he's quite safe right now. Akali tries to trade onto him. Let's take a look at this one. He trades back beautifully. And he knows Akali has no W and E right now, so he's not under threat of her possibly reaching 6. He shoves the wave. Akali reaches 6 right now. I think it's beautiful that he goes into the river, gets a plant, because now he's at high HP, so Akali really struggles to kill him. And the wave's now coming back into Azir because he crashed it, and now it's bouncing back. And he knows this. He gets a slight minion lead. He places it right here because right now what he does is he looks for another big wave crash into Akali. He only last sets the minion here, and the waves are now slowly building in and stacking on top of each other. And if we look at this scenario right here, especially when this wave's coming in, what can Akali do? What can Akali do? She cannot ult onto him because the wave's too big and we're standing in the middle of the wave. So the only way she kills us is if she lands a full combo and lands the E with it. But she can't because the wave's too big. So she'll take too much damage. She can't land the E, and she's basically forced to just take it here. And she's trying to. She knows this, so she's trying to thin the wave while hitting Chovy. But Chovy does this beautifully, pushes the wave, and he gets a nice beautiful reset off right here. And Akali is stuck answering to these minions. And this is exactly what we want to do. Chovy's up in CS here. It's hard for her to get all the creeps consistently, and she's just slowly losing out like this. And this is beautiful League of Legends, playing the waves, playing around our strengths and their weaknesses. And if we continue like this, and if we can do this consistently, I think we should be fine against Akalis. So this is how you can beat Akali from a mage perspective. Of course, you have also games like Sylas, champs like Sylas that can beat Akali in a different way. I really recommend also checking a VOD of that out and trying to replicate how the Akali gets beat in that example. But I hope you learned something from this example and from this video. And if you guys have any feedback or comments, leave them down below in the comment section. And I thank you all for watching, and I wish you guys a great day. Bye bye.